Hello everyone, I'm Jussi Mantere from the K Group. For those of you who are not Finnish, might not know the company, the Finnish retail scene is not as big as in some other countries. We have two really big players, we are one of them, with a turnover of roughly 10 billion, 45,000 employees right now, operating in grocery, building and technical trade within Northern Europe, and car trade, and some specialty goods as well. I come from a unit that's fairly new, called the K Digital, where we focus specifically on the digitalization of retail. I head up a CX and design team there. I'm hiring, by the way. For those of you who might be interested, contact me afterwards. A little bit of personal background. I have background in different kinds of digital, customer-driven design stuff. Did some 10 years in Nokia because it's a national duty in Finland. Either you go to the army or you go to Nokia. The last 5 years working at IKEA, leading the UX design of IKEA's huge e-commerce renewal. We learned a lot of the points you had by experience. All of them are right. And now back in Finland, working with retail. What I'm going to talk about today is, as Lassi said, I'm going to turn us a little bit away from pure digital, although that's my comfort zone. You should always step out of your comfort zone for a while, and talk about how the brick and mortar retail can also be developed using data as your driver. As background, I'm sure all of you would agree, the way we shop, it's changing faster than ever. Actually, to be completely honest, it's already changed, and it continues to change. Looking from a global perspective, retail has undergone a total revolution over the last 10 years. Amazon is not the only one to blame. My grandparents were shopping in a shop like this. The nice lady has probably bought a number of goods, say some hundreds of items from a wholesale retailer, and then she's selling them with a profit, and everyone buys from her exactly the goods that they've always bought because that's what's available. Come media, come press, you learn about new things. The borders slowly opened, the Soviet Union died, Finland opened up, even though we were not really part, but you know, McDonald's came to us, all kinds of stuff. We've learned to expect new things. Supermarkets, self-service, all of that came along. Even IKEA came to Finland and changed the way Finns did home shopping. And what's happened now, of course, with the rise of e-commerce, you really can't work in retail anymore unless you accept the fact that, you know, borders don't really exist. You can't really control what people buy. If you don't offer what they expect, they can get it anywhere, and the competition is becoming international. Now, if you want to work in retail, you need to accept the fact that this change is happening, and you need to be able to cope with the change. And the only way really to cope, or let's say the change that's happening now and that's been happening, is a change where, first of all, customers are in charge. That's like a bullshit bingo term, but it's really true. Customers are in charge of their shopping. And the way to be able to cope with customers being in charge of their shopping is to understand them better. And the way to understand a huge amount of customers doing a huge amount of transactions is to have some kind of control on them. And the way to have some kind of control on them and understanding on them is to have data and to be able to use data. And what we do with data is really use it to steer offering. We use it to steer the services we develop. We use data to basically decide what to develop. Of course, that's something we are learning all the time. Everyone in Finland is learning all the time. But it's the only way to cope, really. Because when when working with retail, the good thing about it is if you're a pure e-com player, you get data about pretty much everything. You get all the clicks, everything. Even if you don't work with e-com, you still get a lot of data. Most people have their loyalty cards, swiping loyalty cards. Of course, it's this vicious circle of loyalty. You get something for swiping your card. In return, we get a bit better understanding what you do, and that's for your own benefit, of course. Because by doing that, the retailer starts to build an understanding of what's meaningful. And when you bundle that with other kinds of data that you also have available, every location gives you a huge amount of data you can use. Every item moving from place A to place B gives you another kind of information, and when you bundle those together, then you start to make sense. So the challenge is not really having data, whether or not you're an online player or not. The challenge is being able to understand that data and make good use of it. So what I'm going to talk about mostly in the presentation is a case-ish about how data helps retailers focus their business better. Unfortunately, I'd really like to show you like a concrete, this is a business case for this hypermarket in this location. Unfortunately, I can't do that for obvious reasons. However, I'm going to talk a little bit about how that kind of a business case and that kind of business model design is created. Now, something to point out here is the business model of our retail group is based on individual retailers. So every K store is owned by an independent retailer who then runs their own business, and the group functions kind of provide goods and provide services and provide support, etc. So that's why it's super important that this individual entrepreneur running their shop has the best possible business model to run their shop. And they have the best possible tools to do it. Talking about grocery, it's a good sort of proof of how shopping really has been changing over the last years. I'd say one of the key changes is that only 20% of people are claiming that their consumption habits haven't really changed at all over the last years. The main change, 63% saying they make more conscious decisions when they shop. And of course, making more conscious decisions can mean a lot of things. Some people say price is a lot more important. That's almost half. Another almost half say quality is a lot more important than before. So for some people, being able to make sustainable decisions is much more important. Looking at trends about shopping, what we see here, for example, is in Finnish, unfortunately. Some trends that are growing on the products, local bread, artisan bakeries, trendy vegetarian products, near-produced meat, that's one trend, reducing amount of sugar, well-being, increase of fruit and vegetables. That's all kind of spreading the palette of what people buy a little bit. And then you look at the growth of the growth of it doesn't actually mean that beer is sold more. It says there's a 52% increase in the number of different beers sold in just 2 years, which is a great example of the trend of the craft beer and microbreweries coming up. People expect to be buying quality beer, myself included. No offense against Lapinkulta if there's anyone from Hartwall here, but really. Hot beverages, you look at the coffee shelf, it's growing out of hand. Same thing with bread, ice cream, 23% increase in the number of products. So what's basically happening here is that because people are expecting to buy so much more, or like make so much more individual decisions of what they buy. Being able to buy exactly what you want is more important. That means being able to offer what people expect to be buying is a lot more important. And of course, if you only look at beer, and there's a 52% increase in the number of EAN codes in the beer shelf in 2 years, imagine where that goes. You look at the K-City market Iso Omena, which is a major size hypermarket in the capital region here. The number of items sold in the same space was 10,000 in 2002, and now it's 30,000. And it's growing. So basically, of course, what this means is people are getting what they want. People are getting what they are asking for. One of the great benefits that we have is that we've been listening to customers quite a bit. There's nowadays a super easy way to online give your wishes to the retailer. I'd like to have this item in stock, could you please order this? And they respond, and they actually do. I've tried that myself. It's actually nice to see that even our competitor is now starting to do this. They're asking what kind of bicycle helmets I'd like to buy in Prisma. The downside of this, of course, is that you look at the number of items sold today, and more items coming up on the market all the time. It's going to get out of hand soon. And if a big hypermarket can stock a lot of items, a smaller supermarket or a small downtown shop really can't. And still you need to be meaningful to the customer. If you as a retailer really want to focus on quality, you want to focus on good customer experience, and you want to offer your customers what they expect to buy and not just compete on price, for example, you need to be able to focus what you do. So the question is really, how do you then focus, yet being able to be meaningful? And there kind of needs to be a way of getting away from purely just asking your customers, what would you like to buy, and I'll get it for you. And you need to be able to somehow predict. Now, of course, I wouldn't be here if I wouldn't be leading this into, now we would use data to do that focus. That's exactly what we do. The good thing about data, as I said, is that because doing shopping with millions of customers every day, you do get a lot of data about what people buy. You get a lot of data about when they buy, where they buy, how the products are all together combined make purchase patterns, etc. Some of you may have seen these some public outcomings with our shopping data. It's really useful. How else would you know that the condom capital of Finland is in the Midwest? Or the obvious facts that we coffee hipsters here down south prefer our coffee as beans, while my parents and in-laws in southern Ostrobothnia are quite happy with their Kulta Katrina. You look at the map on the right is about organic fruit or organic products all in all. You see that there's huge, but the amount of organic goods sold in southern Finland and in the capital region is radically bigger than in most of Finland. So you only look at trends, and of course you see that organic food is really growing. Organic food is really important. But if you're a food retailer in the deep mid of Lady Finland's waste, should you really focus on getting a selection of organic fruit if you can focus your money, space, and effort on something else and remain more meaningful? So basically what I'm coming to is that by using this kind of understanding of where people buy what and when, and kind of what's important to trigger the purchase to happen in this store instead of the other store, you can actually start focusing your business idea completely on the things that are most meaningful in attracting the customers you want to keep, and most importantly, attracting the customers that you want to gain. Now, to do this, as as I mentioned, as you can imagine, the amount of data is humongous. This is what the retailers in grocery business were getting a couple of years ago still. That's an Excel sheet with I don't know how many rows, and the columns don't end there. It goes on to column GT. And of course, that's a great report of everything that happens, but if your daily business focuses on running a shop, you don't really read it. So the challenge is to get the retailers the right tools to help them make some sense of the data they have available. So what's been happening now over the last couple of years is just focusing on getting right kinds of dashboards into people's hands so they can actually, and getting that into their pocket. So you can see with a glance how the basic health of your store is looking like, where your customers were coming from yesterday, the customers who stopped coming to your stores, where they went, the new customers you gained, where they used to shop before, and all that kind of stuff. And out of that, you start to make an understanding of what's important for your growth. And of course, it's quite natural that some customers are also more valuable than others. So then you learn to focus your business activities on the things that matter. It's a horrible slide, but don't look at that. What we've done then in the company is to started using this data to actually make conclusions of, hey, you're a shop, you should somehow stand out from all the other shops. What should you be about? And we have this concept of a store-specific business idea that really gives you the final personalized edge. Of course, there's the basics, like you need to have clean shelves and clean floors, you need to have products coming in and products going out, affordable enough prices so people don't go automatically to competitors, etc., etc. You have certain things, we operate as chains, so every city market and every supermarket has the same kind of personality, same kind of basic stock, etc. And then there's that final edge, and the data is really the key factor in making that final edge come together. So how do you stand out, and what's your sort of identity as a store? And now I'd really like to show you one of these examples, but unfortunately, you have to imagine with what I'm saying here. All the stores have their own specific product range. You look at the maps of what's sold where. Of course, if you operate in Punavuori in Helsinki or Kallio, you have a lot of more vegetarian products, you have a lot more organic products, and you definitely have a lot more craft beer. You go to a little countryside town in the middle of Finland, you focus on some other products. You probably have less Asian goods. If you operate in an area where you have a lot of ethnic backgrounds available, you probably have a lot wider selection of world foods, for example. Focus on the right products and services for the store's customers. Now this is also the thing where good data can be put into use. There's some obvious things that you need to be able to offer, like, yeah, people buy organic here, so let's put in organic. But then by sort of concluding that people buy this, and this kind of stuff, and then they also do this, you can focus on the things that don't automatically seem to be making sense just by looking at sales figures if you combine the data in the right way. So add-on services, etc. Things that really attract customers in so they also buy the things that bring in profit. By doing this, you can do a lot better targeted marketing communication as well. By just shooting emails based on your postcode or your family situation, you get to a certain point, but then being able to say that, hey, because you just recently did this, and this store here is doing this and this and this kind of stuff, you can really attract all the right kinds of people to get the right kinds of messages. And finally, ideas and feedback directly from the customers is now this thing that I started with. You start asking customers, what would you like to buy, etc., etc. This thing is iteratively developed, so you get the focus, looking at the data, making sense of the data, and then by using the direct connection you have with the customers, you continue to iterate and make it better and make it work. This is, I mean, this is something that's happening right now, and new stores opening up are doing this. So it's definitely leading into more individual, more personalized store experiences, and also making sense of the promise we have of every store being a little bit different. It needs to be different with a meaning, and that's what we're shooting for. I'm actually gonna say a couple of more words. Now we talked about the just the grocery brick and mortar experience, focusing that based on data and just the amount of data, being able to present the data in the right way and turn that into a business asset. A couple of words about using data to develop digital services as well, because we started from the digital world. I personally, now that we talked about data, I've always had an issue with pure data-driven thinking, in the sense that one of the classical sort of myths of data is that it's cold and it's quantitative and you don't really get under the skin of people, and that's kind of true. So what we've started to experiment with, I would have loved to share with you a little bit more of what we've done. We've just started to experiment with it, is combining all the rich data that we have, because we have a lot. But what we don't really have in that data set is values, expectations, the things that are sort of in the heart and soul of people, not just the behavior. And combining that with this axis of quantitative, qualitative, we start to understand the things we kind of are strong in and the things we need to add. We've started to build that. When we do new service development now, we've started doing personas. Everyone does personas. I've been doing personas for a long time with teams, and personas are usually invented, and then we say that it's based on research, but it's usually invented, right? So what we're trying to do, and we really haven't done this more than 2 times, but because we have a lot of data that we can directly download, we can fill in half of a persona automatically, and having a pool of research to complement that from, what I believe we should be doing is give that data a face, give that data a name, and give that data a family, give that data some values, some things that she's afraid of, give her some things that really motivate her in life, and then the data truly comes to life, creating new services. This is just one of the potentials we have. As said, there's a lot of data we have when we do retail with a big scale. The only way to cope with the change of retail is to have a grip on your data. We're able to use that data really well to develop our stores and the operations of our stores. There's a great way to build new services that make use of that data, like these, for example, the mobile app or the recipe service we have. I don't know how familiar you are with that, but it's all tailored based on your shopping behavior, so you actually get recipes you probably want to cook. But the future kind of holds a lot of opportunities, and the biggest, in my personal opinion, the biggest task we have ahead is combining that data with true understanding of what makes people tick, and then you have a winner to create new services and create retail even further.